Have you ever thought about your job as, this fixed box you fit into, with clear responsibilities, a predictable path? Well, here's where it gets really interesting. That whole traditional model, it's kind of dissolving right before our eyes, rapidly.
It really is remarkable how deep that job-centric idea goes. I mean, for over a century, right? It's been the bedrock for, well, everything. How organizations connect talent to work, deploy people, even how they build their basic infrastructure. But yeah, the ground is definitely shifting.
Absolutely. And that's what we're getting into today. We're taking a deep dive into the Skills-Powered Organization by Ravin Jesuthasan and Tanuj Kapilashvami. And look, this isn't just another buzzword. It's really about a fundamental transformation in how work gets done. And crucially, how you can not just adapt, but actually thrive in this new landscape. Our mission here is to really distill the core insights, maybe some surprising facts, and the practical takeaways from this material. Give you a shortcut, to being really informed on this vital topic.
Yeah, and the authors, they're deep experts in human capital, future of work stuff. They really explore this shift. And they don't just talk theory, they pack it with real-world examples showing how that old job-based system is frankly just too rigid now.
Okay, so let's unpack this then. Why is this 140-year-old model, this thing that seems so solid, why is it crumbling now?
Well, it feels like a perfect storm. You've got accelerating change everywhere, demanding way more organizational agility. Then there's the huge rise of AI and automation, changing tasks within jobs. Plus, push for more diversity, equity, and inclusion DEI, and all these alternative ways of working popping up. Gig work, freelancing. They decouple work from the old 9-to-5 job.
And you see the evidence all over. Like IBM, as early as 2017, their former CEO, Ginny Rometty, was talking about new-collar jobs, roles where the focus is on relevant skills, maybe from vocational training, not always needing that 4-year degree. By 2022, get this, over half of IBM's jobs didn't require a degree. That's a massive shift for a tech giant like them.
Right. And connecting that to the bigger picture, a Deloitte study found 90% of executives are already experimenting with skills-powered approaches. And these aren't just small tweaks. These organizations are 63% more likely to hit key business and workforce goals. Things like better talent placement, more innovation. It makes a difference.
We really saw this play out during the pandemic, didn't we? It kind of forced agility on everyone.
Yeah.
Like Verizon redeploying, nearly 20,000 store employees to telesales and online support. And Bank of America shifting 30,000 people to handle all those CARES Act inquiries. They did it by leveraging the skills they already had, not by hiring for specific titles. It really shows how vital this skills approach is becoming.
Which raises a really important question. What exactly are skills in this new world? Because it's more nuanced than just your resume list, right?
Definitely. The authors explain it like two main buckets. You've got skills verified by, say, certifications or assessments.
Okay.
And then there's the unverified ones, often inferred by AI,
right,
or just what people self-report. But here's the really wild part. The hidden skills. Yeah. Skyhive, this tech company, found people typically list maybe 11 skills for their roles.
Just 11, yeah.
But when AI digs into their experience, their education, it infers an average of 34 skills. 34.
Wow, that's a huge gap. It points to this massive untapped potential just sitting inside organizations.
Exactly.
And what's really insightful is this difference between just having a skill possession and skills expression. It's not just about knowing something, it's how you translate it into actual results, into outcomes. The book suggests looking at expression in 3 ways. Is it efficient? Getting the outcome without wasted effort. Is it effective? Does it actually achieve the desired result? And is it impactful? Does it enhance things for others or contribute to a bigger goal?
Maybe let's step back for a second, trace how we got here, like historically. So Second Industrial Revolution, roughly 1870 to 1930, that's when work got bundled into jobs and job families, functions. It was the era of Frederick Taylor, scientific management, all about efficiency. And that's when that rigid one-to-one person-to-position thing really took hold.
Right, and that structure was incredibly sticky. Then came the Third Industrial Revolution, maybe 1955 to 2005. Information started getting democratized, and that fueled outsourcing, lifting, and shifting whole jobs for cheaper labor. Computers also started shaking things up, replacing rules-based work, which created, more inequality, job polarization, but also new demands for human skills.
And that brings us to now, the Fourth Industrial Revolution, 2005-ish to present. Cloud, mobile, AI, they've democratized work itself, decoupling it from, the office, the fixed schedule, the gig economy exploded. And that really marks the shift. Skills, not just job titles, become the currency. It's less about where you work, much more about what you can do.
So why is this skills-first thing suddenly so critical? Well, Like I said, it's that perfect storm of forces. You've got widespread labor shortages, the huge remote work shift, massive growth in online learning and micro-credentials, plus these really sophisticated tools for mapping jobs and skills. All these things are pushing organizations. They have to reinvent business models, cut costs, manage all these external pressures. A skills focus helps them do that.
And the actual economic value of, well, people's capabilities is just undeniable. There's research by Dave Ulrich and Norm Smallwood. They found human capabilities, so talent, leadership, the organization itself. HR accounts for something like 44.5% of revenue per employee and 26% of earnings.
Huge numbers. It really underscores the core value of human skills in driving business success.
What's also kind of mind-blowing is just the speed of skill disruption. It's not just tech anymore, right? The need for new skills is spreading everywhere, like jobs needing data analysis skills. Went from under 300,000 across 17 occupations in 2011 to over 1.2 million in 81 occupations just 10 years later.
Exactly. It's not just new jobs appearing. Existing roles are demanding totally new capabilities.
And that means more demand for cross-domain skills, too. You know, marketing folks needing data chops, engineers needing communication or design skills, roles needing creativity. They shot up across loads of sectors, even IT. Now, for individuals, that's a massive opportunity. Reinvent yourself. But it also means a higher risk of your skills becoming obsolete if you don't keep learning.
And it's heavily digital. Over 75% of the most disrupted jobs are digital or tech-related.
And get this stat from the 2023 Skills Compass report. Almost 40% so. More than a third of the skills needed for the average job today didn't matter 5 years ago.
40%. That's not just rapid change. It's like hyper speed. The shelf life of your skills is just shrinking dramatically. Continuous learning isn't optional anymore. It's essential.
Okay, so if things are changing that fast, how do you even know where to invest your learning time? How do you invest wisely?
Well, the authors propose this useful investment thesis for skills. It looks at 3 things: time to skill, how long it takes to get good; skill value, what the market pays for it; and skill longevity, how long it stays relevant.
Okay, that makes sense. Time, value, longevity.
Exactly. And based on that, they map out 5 skill themes. First, solid investment skills. Think risk management, project management. They take time and money to learn, but they last. Then, quick dividend skills. Salesforce admin, data structures. They last pretty well, and often cheaper to learn than hire for. Third, enduring skills. Teamwork, research. Super high longevity, pretty low cost to develop, always valuable.
Okay.
Fourth, adaptive skills, like specific programming languages, Swift maybe, or network security. Costly to get, costly to hire, and you have to keep updating them because they change fast. Lower longevity. And finally, commodity skills. Basic web development, CSS, lots of people have them, cheap to hire for. This framework isn't just, academic theory. It gives you a practical way to think about where you should focus your learning for the best career impact and staying power.
So painting a picture then, what does a skills-powered organization actually look like? How does it feel different?
Well, first off, they tend to be flatter, more agile structurally, less hierarchy, more cross-functional teams. Big focus on collaboration, sharing knowledge.
Right, and how they hire must be different too.
Totally. Talent acquisition is skills first. They prioritize what you can do, your potential, over just degrees or years of experience. They use assessments, work samples more.
Makes sense. And development.
Huge emphasis on continuous skill development. They invest a lot in training, mentoring, job shadowing. It's ongoing.
Okay.
Fourth, they really prioritize diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI. They recognize diverse perspectives, fuel innovation. It's baked into the culture. And fifth, they're just inherently agile, adaptable. They can pivot quickly. They value experimentation.
Got it. So to actually make that shift, it sounds like a major undertaking.
Yeah.
The authors must outline some key factors.
They do. They identify 7 critical factors, kind of the pillars for this transformation. It includes things like how leadership needs to change, the need for agility in the actual org model, reinventing the whole work experience, developing new organizational capabilities, really harnessing AI, the changing role of HR, and importantly, thinking beyond the company walls into ecosystems.
Okay, let's dig into leadership first. That seems fundamental. How does leadership have to evolve?
It's a massive shift from the old command and control. Ravin Jesuthasan and John Boudreau talk about 5 mechanisms redefining it. First, a huge mindset shift. That old learn, do, retire idea, gone. It's now learn, do, rest, learn, repeat. Remember Alvin Toffler? He said the illiterate of the 21st century aren't those who can't read, but those who can't learn, unlearn, and relearn. That's exactly it.
Yeah, learn, unlearn, relearn. Okay, what's next?
Second, an ability shift, moving away from just fixed qualifications towards work readiness. Technical skills,
Yeah.
increasingly easy and cheap to pick up online, like Python courses on LinkedIn Learning. So the real focus shifts to those enabling skills, and especially learning agility, how well you learn from everything, success, failure, feedback.
Right. Makes sense.
Third, a reward shift, moving from fixed salaries tied to permanent jobs towards flexible total rewards based on, well, deconstructed work and specific skills. Talent platforms are already showing how individual tasks get valued in real time. Pay can adjust rapidly. Fourth is a deployment shift, ditching rigid job structures for a dynamic work architecture that constantly matches skills to tasks and projects. Leaders aren't just managers of people and roles, they become orchestrators, guiding talent across different teams, even different parts of the business.
Orchestrators, I like that. And the fifth mechanism.
A development shift. Instead of fixed career ladders, you have dynamic reskilling pathways based on tasks and how jobs are being reinvented. And this relies more and more on human skills, not just technical ones. There's this great example in the book. An accountant ends up managing an oil rig. Not because they knew oil, but because they had key human skills like a global mindset and, crucially, a strong learning orientation.
Wow, okay. So beyond those mechanisms, are there specific new skills leaders themselves need?
Yes, the authors list 5 key ones for this skills-powered world. First, moving from just hierarchical authority to empowerment and alignment. Leaders guide project teams, define missions, orchestrate resources. Second, shifting from a purely technical view of automation to a more humanistic one. Balancing AI and people, recognizing unique human creativity, avoiding bias towards just machine efficiency.
That's a really important balance. What else?
Third, moving DEI from something episodic like a program to a continuous focus, embedding it in every single interaction. Fourth, going beyond just being digitally savvy to having real tech fluency, understanding how to balance innovation and practicality, how to use algorithms for supervising work effectively. And fifth, shifting from rigid process execution to flexible project guidance. That means rapidly putting together teams based on skills, adapting rules for more agile ways of working.
Okay, so leadership changes, but what about the organization itself? How does its structure fundamentally shift?
Yeah, the authors talk about 3 big shifts here.
Mhm.
1, fixed structures become flexible constructs. 2, fixed jobs become a fluid matching of skills to work. It's continuous. And 3, instead of trying to own all capabilities internally, organizations tap into an ecosystem, building some skills, sharing others, renting capabilities when needed.
That sounds like a complete redesign. How do they frame that?
They connect it back to Galbraith's STAR model, a classic framework for org design. It looks at strategy, structure, processes, rewards, and people practices. What the book does brilliantly is show how every single point on that star gets reinvented when you move from jobs to skills. It has to become adaptive as work constantly evolves.
And they talk about different models for actually connecting talent to the work in this new world.
Yes, 3 main models. The fixed model, that's the traditional one, 19th, early 20th century. Jobs and hierarchies, focused on scale, efficiency, control. Think old school factory floor, strict quality control.
Right, the classic pyramid.
Exactly. Then there's the flexible model, more of a hybrid structure, better for handling complexity, uncertainty. It values speed, agility, flexibility. Allows for quicker pivots.
Okay, makes sense. And the third?
That's the flow model. This is designed for really volatile, hyper-competitive environments. Talent connects through projects, gigs. AI is constantly monitoring demand, inferring skills, making matches in real time. Here, the absolute key is rapid capability deployment. And you're drawing on skills you've built, skills shared across the org, and skills rented from outside.
Can you give an example of that flow model actually working?
Sure. They detail a case study of a global insurance company. They built this agile global data science capability. Data scientists weren't stuck in roles. They flowed to projects based purely on their skills. And get this, their pay was skills-based too. It flexed based on the market value of specific skill combos, like knowing Python, R, and linear modeling together.
Wow, pay flexing based on skill combinations. How did they manage that matching?
Through an internal talent marketplace powered by AI. It translated the work needed into required skills, then matched it to available talent. It even considered things like adjacent skills, people's interests, their current capacity. Plus, it would flag trending skills and suggest upskilling options. The results were pretty stunning. A 600% productivity gain for their data scientists came from more agility, lower turnover, higher engagement because of the skills-based pay, and less downtime between projects. That's real impact.
That is impressive. Let's talk about Standard Chartered again. Their journey sounds really relevant here.
Absolutely. They started with that crucial narrative shift, moving from jobs as currency to skills as currency. Their strategic workforce planning was key. They identified sunset roles, things like operations, admin, and sunrise roles, cloud engineering, cybersecurity. That analysis gave them the economic case for deciding whether to build skills internally or buy them externally. It also flagged potential issues like gender diversity impacts because many women were in those sunset roles.
So they knew where the gaps were. How did they encourage learning?
They really focus on building a learning habit. Average learning days per employee went up significantly from like 2.8 days in 2019 to 4.7 in 2022. Technology was key to making learning accessible. And a huge cultural piece was HR partnering with business leaders to push for talent sharing instead of talent hoarding. That's critical for skills to actually flow.
Right. You can't flow if people are holding on to their teams.
Yeah.
What about specific tools or platforms?
They launched an AI-powered learning platform called Discover in mid-2020. It offered personalized, bite-sized, on-demand learning. They also set up future skills academies. These focused on both technical skills like cybersecurity, sustainable finance, and those crucial human or enabling skills, managing ambiguity, critical thinking, emotional intelligence.
And were the learning methods traditional?
Not entirely. They got creative.
Huh.
Online brain training games for data science skills, virtual simulations like one called Equilibrium for practicing real-world decisions in teams. They also consciously designed online learning to help women overcome hurdles in male-dominated sunrise roles, offering flexible, safe learning spaces.
This all seems to feed into their internal talent marketplace you mentioned.
Exactly. That marketplace used AI to democratize access to opportunities, gigs, projects based on skills and aspirations. And importantly, no manager approval needed.
The impact was tangible. Remember that supply chain employee in Chennai used programming skills for a banking gig in Singapore, automated a 3-hour task down to 15 minutes. That's unlocking hidden value.
And it scaled fast. The pilot in India started with 6,000 employees, 280 gigs. By late 2022, it was over 19,000 users globally. The productivity numbers are solid, too. From around $580,000 in the pilot to over $6 million realized from 1,700-plus gigs. Often tied to strategic priorities like sustainability or digital, it sparked a real cultural shift. People got personalized learning, better employability they could earn, LinkedIn badges, engagement went up, and people started moving towards work that aligned with their purpose.
And the data from that marketplace must be incredibly useful strategically.
Immensely. It shows them top skills in supply versus demand, what people want to develop. That feeds directly into those buy versus build versus borrow decisions. It also helps them get ahead of potential gender representation issues by seeing skill gaps early. And they're serious about responsible AI with strong governance to ensure fairness.
So, thinking about the individual, what does this mean for your day-to-day work experience?
Well, the authors pose two big questions for organizations. One, how do you redesign work so talent can flow seamlessly and reinvent itself constantly? And two, how do you reimagine the work experience to meet talent where they are, customize it like a consumer experience, and build a truly equitable, inclusive, accountable culture?
Those are huge questions.
Yeah.
It implies a complete rethink.
It does. That shrinking skill half-life means organizations have to design learning in the flow of work. It can't be separate anymore. They mention an airline that shifted its whole employee promise, not just stability, but a commitment to continuous development, keeping people relevant. That's a powerful EVP shift.
And what about flexibility? We hear so much about that.
Oh, absolutely. There's a great example of a global pharma company. They went all in on human-centric work, unlimited work from home, work from anywhere, flexible schedules based on hitting productivity goals. Salaries were skills-based, market value plus geographic adjustments, personalized pay.
But did that flexibility reach everyone, or just office workers?
That's the remarkable part. They extended it to lab and manufacturing jobs, too. Through things like shift sharing, using algorithms to optimize schedules, they offered more work arrangements beyond just full-time temp, job sharing, freelance, and made it easier to move between them. Supported by really granular tasks and skill planning. And this whole skills-powered approach helped them attract more diverse talent and foster inclusion using constant feedback loops.
Okay, it feels like AI is the engine driving a lot of this.
Yeah.
Can we talk more about AI's role?
For sure. AI is absolutely the supercharger here. We've seen AI evolve, right? First gen was rule-based. Think basic applicant tracking systems, scanning resumes for keywords. Pretty simple.
Right.
Second gen brought machine learning. AI learns from data, finds patterns, makes predictions, like personalized learning recommendations.
Okay, getting smarter.
Third gen, deep learning. Neural networks learning adaptively from experience. like resume screeners that actually understand context, not just keywords.
And
Fourth gen, generative AI, creating new content based on its training. Think AI generating personalized career plans, acting like a personal coach, creating custom learning content on the fly. It's a game changer.
so these AI algorithms are really the heart of those talent platforms. What specifically do they do?
They're crucial for four things. One, figuring out the demand for skills, what's needed for the work, often inferred right from project tools like Jira or Asana. Two, understanding the supply of skills, getting real-time visibility into who has what skills, internally and externally, by analyzing profiles, experiences, education.
Okay, demand and supply. Then matching.
Exactly. Three is matching skills to work. That's the core job of the talent marketplace, using deep learning to connect the skills needed with the people who have them for gigs, projects, even full-time roles. And four, closing skill gaps. AI recommends specific training, certifications, mentoring to help people get the skills they need. Generative AI is making this incredibly personalized and efficient now.
With AI becoming so central, it sounds like everyone needs some level of AI literacy.
Absolutely. Every employee needs AI aptitude. That Microsoft Work Trend Index from 2023, it highlighted essential skills like analytical judgment, flexibility, emotional intelligence, creative evaluation, curiosity, spotting bias, and knowing what tasks to delegate to AI. It's really about learning how to collaborate with AI effectively.
And big tech companies are building platforms for this.
Yeah, Microsoft's Viva Skills system is a great example. It builds on LinkedIn's skills graph, infers skills from what employees are actually doing, and powers learning, development, internal moves. It shows the scale and integration potential.
Okay, this is a massive transformation. What does this mean for the HR function itself? Their role must be changing dramatically.
Absolutely pivotal. HR's mandate is shifting fundamentally, from just being a steward of employment to being a steward of work itself in all its forms. HR has to lead the charge on changing the infrastructure, the culture, the technology.
Are there specific shifts HR needs to make?
The World Economic Forum's HR 4.0 study outlined 6 key ones. Things like developing new leadership capabilities, managing tech integration smartly, enhancing the work experience, building that agile learning culture, setting up meaningful human capital metrics, and embedding DEI everywhere.
So it's less about administering policies and more strategic.
Way more strategic. HR pros increasingly need to think like product managers. They're designing and offering personalized, flexible work products using the latest tech. The old one-size-fits-all HR programs. They're fading fast.
Can you give examples of how HR products evolve?
Yeah, Paul Habgood's maturity matrix shows this well, like workforce planning. It goes from just counting heads to integrated capability and economic planning based on individual skills, learning and development. Moves from separate courses to being woven into the flow of work, enabling that constant reinvention.
What about acquiring talent?
That shifts too.
Yeah.
The skills supply chain goes from just hiring employees externally to managing talent across a whole open ecosystem. Employees, contractors, gig workers, outsourcers. Talent mobility isn't just about permanent job moves anymore. It's holistic resourcing through a marketplace for gigs and projects. Careers become boundaryless, mixing internal and external experiences.
And the organization structure itself.
Org design moves from static hierarchies to dynamic networks of teams forming and disbanding based on skill needs. How resources are allocated shifts from a narrow team view to considering all resources in that open ecosystem. Rewards, as we said, become skills-based, tied to impact. Work design itself becomes intelligent, constantly adapting based on skills supply and demand. And the underlying skills data goes from basic to AI inferred, constantly evolving, with taxonomies always being updated.
So HR becomes the orchestrator of the entire work experience.
Exactly. They shape all the touchpoints interactions with leaders, colleagues, tech, the environment, work design, development, deployment, creating one consistent, inclusive experience. And that requires actively listening to the voice of all talent, not just full-time employees, to keep improving.
And data is key to all this.
HR has to become obsessively data-driven, using multiple sources, finding unique insights, telling compelling stories with data to drive decisions and change behavior. Analytics are crucial for figuring out upskilling needs, managing that human-machine collaboration with AI.
Okay, we've talked a lot about inside the organization, but you mentioned thinking beyond its walls. Open ecosystems.
Right. When skills become the currency, it dramatically reduces the friction of tapping into external talent. Old B2B relationships, like with big outsourcing firms, can shift towards more direct B2C-like engagements with individual gig workers on external marketplaces.
And that brings new players into the mix.
Totally. Governments, NGOs, unions, tech platforms, schools, even competitors can become partners in these ecosystems. It leads to this idea from Gary Bowles, the age of the organization as community. Organizations become more like dynamic communities bound by shared identity, where membership isn't just binary, you're either in or out.
Like, you could be 100% committed to your main job, but also 5% involved in a freelance gig somewhere else.
Precisely. And
Yeah.
this is accelerated by things like Web3 and DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations.
Okay, DAOs, what are they exactly?
Think of them as online communities or businesses owned and run by their members. They use blockchain for transparency and smart contracts for rules and governance. Work gets organized in a truly decentralized way. Leadership can be fluid, and they might prioritize things differently, maybe social goods like job security.
So alongside those fixed, flexible, and flow models within companies, DAOs are like a fourth way work gets done.
You could see it that way, a model where work flows to talent with even less friction. DAOs often have a small core group, a wider circle of contributors, maybe other DAOs, freelancers, and an even broader group of members or promoters with different reward structures.
Are companies actually experimenting with this?
Yeah, in early stages. Prototyping things like using DAOs for brand communities or innovation challenges, using tokens to reward freelancers, outsourcing specific goals like ESG targets to a DAO, integrating blockchain into core processes. It's definitely pushing the boundaries of what an organization means.
And governments have a role to play in fostering these skills ecosystems too.
A huge role. In the US, for example, you have millions of workers, they call them stars, skilled through alternative routes who don't have a 4-year degree but have valuable skills. Skills-first approaches help connect them to good jobs, so governments are pushing for that.
Are there examples elsewhere?
Oh, yeah. Singapore's Skills Future movement is a big one. Started in 2015, national focus on lifelong learning, skills mastery, government funding credits for individuals, strong partnerships between government, industry, education. France has a big skills investment plan, targeting low-skilled workers and youth, trying to match training to company needs, especially for digital and green transitions. Governments see this as critical for national competitiveness.
And Standard Chartered, are they involved in community skill building too?
Yes, very much so. It aligns with their commitment to the UN Sustainable Development Goals, specifically Goal 8 on productive employment and decent work. They have a program called Future Makers, launched in 2019. It supports disadvantaged young people, especially young women, with training, mentoring, entrepreneurship skills. Reached over 1 million youth by 2022.
So specific initiatives focused externally.
Right. Things like the GOAL program for financial education for adolescent girls and women in tech, providing training, mentoring, even seed funding for female entrepreneurs. And they're exploring tech to scale this, maybe a reskilling mobile app developed with a partner to offer learning and career exploration to clients and communities, potentially linking back to their own hiring portal, extending the skills focus outward.
Okay, so this has been a really comprehensive look. Let's try to bring it together. For organizations listening, how do they even start this journey? It sounds huge.
It is huge, but you start somewhere. First step, define your North Star. What's the clear, inspiring vision? What outcomes are you aiming for? What does success look and feel like? Microsoft apparently used this North Star approach, effectively gives direction, transparency, helps focus experiments.
Experiments seem key.
Absolutely critical. Experiment, experiment, experiment. You have to test design principles before you roll them out wide. Use a framework to select experiments. Consider impact, scope, how you'll measure success, how long it'll run. Guiding principles help shape these tests.
And are there key things organizations need to get right to make it work? Like enablers?
Yes. The authors talk about enablers creating a flywheel effect. Leaders are crucial. They have to champion it, build the capability for work redesign, mentor people, push for internal mobility and DEI. You need clear governance. Who owns the skills taxonomy? What are the deployment guidelines? How are resource decisions made? Employees have a role too, owning their skills profiles, engaging with opportunities, identifying gaps, committing to learning.
What else for that flywheel?
Culture and change management, it has to be enterprise-wide, co-created with tons of communication. HR needs to build expertise in work redesign, align processes, really champion the model. Other functions like finance, IT, legal need to adapt their workflows for this cross-boundary work. Technology and AI are obviously vital. the right platforms, smart matching, data flows, analytics, and the absolute foundation. A robust skills taxonomy, ways to validate skills, and clear skill profiles mapped to work.
Okay, that's the organizational side. Now, for individuals listening, how do you thrive in this skills-powered world that can feel a bit daunting?
It can, but it's also empowering. Lewis Garrard offers 5 great tips. First, get clear on your raw material. Really understand what motivates you, your interests, aspirations, values. Don't just chase job titles. Focus on the actual work you enjoy doing day to day.
Okay, know thyself. What's next?
Second, do a personal skills audit. Figure out what skills you actually have and your proficiency level. Use tools, AI, LinkedIn maybe, to get a clear list, say 20, 30 skills. Start seeing yourself not as a job title, but as a bundle of capabilities.
A bundle of capabilities. I like that framing. Third tip.
Decide on a strategy. How will you be unique? Think about hybridizing your skill set. Combine different domains, like maybe you're an HR leader, but you also learn to code. That creates a really unique, valuable proposition in the market, finding your niche.
Makes sense. Become harder to replace. Fourth.
Invest in your skills to build skills. These are the meta skills. Focus on core things like influence, sense-making, thinking across disciplines, learning how to learn effectively. These capabilities help you adapt and grow no matter what specific technical skills become hot or not.
So, learn how to learn. Got it. And the fifth tip.
Assign value to your culture and organization-specific skills. Learn the unwritten rules, what makes your current company tick, how to navigate its specific context successfully. That ability to adapt to context, that's a really valuable skill in itself.
This has been incredibly insightful. It feels like the skills-powered organization isn't some far-off future concept. It's kind of already here, isn't it?
It really is. It's transforming how we work, how we think about careers.
So for everyone listening, maybe the call to action is to lean into this uncertainty. See it not just as disruption, but as an opportunity. An opportunity for maybe greater freedom, more experimentation in your work, and maybe even your life.
Exactly. In this world where skills are the new currency, maybe true wealth isn't just measured by what you have, but by what you can constantly learn and apply. You're always shaping your own value in this evolving market.
So think about it. What new skill will you express today that unlocks your next opportunity?